this is implicit that business association is one of the type. So they are asking how business association help in public policy making. Socialization or political awareness, you can also mention if you do not want to, if you do not have specific vocabulary, you can also write political awareness. So for answer writing, you have to write 10 or write a lot of answers. The more you write, the better your answers will become, whether your knowledge improves or not. So this is very important. Then you can talk about other things as well. So the point is that you do have content. You just need to think in that perspective. The point is that you will be aware about the features, but it is not something that is complete in nature. So in case something can be conveyed in one line, do not use 4 lines to convey that part, just to fill the space. So good evening everyone. कैसे हो आप लोग? Okay. So how many of you have written mains before? Okay, 2. How many of you have attempted prelims or given any exam, UPSC prelims? You have given prelims? Okay. Or have any one of you have qualified mains? किसी ने mains qualify किया? Okay, fine. Just to know the audience, okay? So basically the object of today's session is, it's going to be an open session, okay? And it is going to be in the workshop kind of thing, right? So the whole idea is that even though we have multiple resources, you'll find there are multiple videos that are there on how to write good answer, okay? But most of them are essentially speaker-centric, in the sense that most of the times it is given in the form of lecture, but it is not audience-centric. So the purpose of this session is that it is going to be audience-centric. Huh? Okay, so the purpose is that it is going to be audience-centric and it is going to be practice-oriented, all right? So to begin with, let's start with a question itself. And then we'll go ahead with the principles which is required. So take 5 minutes, okay, and try to frame your response to this question. Basic structure, design, whatever you can call it, try to frame, okay? In your notebook, whatever you have bought. The question is, with suitable examples, discuss how pressure groups enhance public participation and responsiveness with regard to environmental policies in India. How many of you have studied about pressure group? Do you have some idea about pressure group? You have studied. So what are pressure groups? Right. Influence करते हैं, right? Very good. What about you? Same. Right. Okay. So does anyone have any idea about, apart from what they have mentioned, about pressure group? जो कि क्वेश्चन की लैंग्वेज है. Good. ठीक है. देखो. So is there anyone who hasn't heard about the term pressure group? किसी ने बस सुना ही नहीं है pressure group के बारे में कभी? कोई है ऐसा? Though this is not a previous year question, but it is very much aligned with what has been asked in previous year question, okay? So the first thing is, the agenda of the session is what we are going to do. We'll be starting from the end. Starting from the end in the sense that we will directly pick up questions and then we'll see what kind of principles are required to solve that question.
UPSC preparation is not just about reading books or watching online lectures. It requires personal guidance, real discussions, and structured practice. This is where offline mentoring makes all the difference. Unlike online learning, where doubts often remain unresolved, offline mentoring offers direct interaction, real-time feedback, and an environment of discipline and competition. One-to-one sessions help students get tailored advice, strategy corrections, and focused improvement. Every aspirant has different strengths and weaknesses. Personal mentoring helps address them effectively. Ground discussions sharpen analytical thinking and help students develop a multi-dimensional perspective on issues crucial for prelims, mains, and interview. Elocution sessions help in personality development, clarity of thought, and confidence, essential for UPSC interviews. Test writing is the most crucial part of UPSC preparation. It helps in time management, structuring answers, and improving content quality. Offline mentoring is not just about teaching, it's about grooming future officers with the right guidance, discipline, and confidence. So if you are preparing for UPSC, make sure you have the right mentor by your side.
What kind of content is required? What kind of presentation is required? What kind of brainstorming is required? So that is going to be the way in which we'll be studying. So starting from the end, and then here we will be doing something known as reverse engineering. How many of you are engineers here? Okay, so you will be good at it. But for others who are not from engineering background, do not worry. We'll try to learn the principle of reverse engineering. What is exactly here? And here, similar thing is basically what we'll doing is we'll be doing something which AI tools are using. And AI tools are doing what is known as pattern recognition. We'll try to recognize what are some of the patterns which is essential, okay? And this to analyze a pattern, we need to have certain set of data. And where do we get this data? We'll get this data from previous year question. What kind of previous year questions have come from that topic? And from the previous year questions, we will be able to identify two things, mostly the dimensions. What kind of dimensions can be asked from this particular topic? For example, we have given an example of pressure group. So we'll take a look at all the questions that have come in the UPSC from previous year. And from that previous year, we'll be able to identify various kinds of dimension. And this will also help us with the depth. To what depth we should go. Okay? And this, we already know that PYQs are important. But once we understand this is the reason why we should be studying PYQ, it will be very much clear to you how to utilize it for pattern recognition. All right? Also, once we have understood this, we also need to work on the content, make our content, or streamline our content. We need to streamline our content. See, the problem is not that you do not know. The problem is that your content is not organized. The content is not streamlined, okay? So I'm sure that if you have given prelims, and if you have managed to score, or if you are able to qualify prelims, then content is not a problem. I'm pretty sure that content is not the problem, but when it comes to mains, you're not able to recall. You're not able to put your thoughts into words. The real reason is because you have not organized your content. And through this, we'll also learn how to organize your thought or streamline your content, all right? And once you have streamlined your content, there is also a very important thing that you should be aware or you should know is to make your content specific, okay? So the problem is you have generic content. For example, here the question was on pressure group, but it impact on environment, okay? So you may know about generic things about pressure groups, the various ways in which pressure group work, but you may not have idea about specific to environment, right, in decision makings or environment politics. So how do you make your content from generic to specific is also an art that you can learn if you have practiced enough questions. Okay, so that is going to be the agenda of today's discussion, and we'll pick up certain questions to highlight all these areas. Okay, now tell me, we'll talk about the structure of the question, what can be done in this question. But before we take a look at all these things, let's talk about what kind of questions have come in the past from pressure group, okay? So if you look at the kind of question that have come in the past from UPSC, in the UPSC exam, from the topic of pressure group, the questions are, pressure groups play a vital role in the influencing public policy. So we get one dimension that they're asking us role played by pressure groups. So this is one dimension, okay? And then they have asked how the business associations contribute to public policy. So there is again types of pressure groups. Okay, you need to know about what kind of types. So again, this is implicit that business association is one of the type. So they're asking how business association help in public policy making, okay? How contribute to public policies. So role played by pressure groups, types of public pressure groups, and their specific contributions, okay? Next, what are the methods used by farmers organization? So first you need to know about methods by pressure groups, okay? So they can use multiple methods and specific, again, types. Here you have not about business association, here it is farmers organization, okay? So you already got two dimensions here. And then methods adopted by various business organizations, methods adopted by farmers organization, okay? Same, how do pressure groups influence the Indian political process? So basically roles and influence. This is basically same only, role and influence. Do you agree with the view that informal pressure groups? So informal is again a type of pressure groups, okay? So there can be two types, one on the basis of nature. What kind of nature it is business or it is trade or it is environment, right? So that could be one. Other could be either it is formal or it could be informal. So in both of the types of questions have been asked in UPSC, all right? Then in the Indian governance system, the role of non-state actors. Non-state actors are nothing but those which are not part of the state or government, right? So here, again, pressure groups is implicitly asked, okay? The role. So role, again, you can see that if you have roles written here, then you will be able to attempt this question. Pressure group politics is sometimes seen as the informal phase of politics. With regard to the above, assess the structure and functioning. So you need to provide the structure and functioning, what kind of structure it has, and what is its functioning, which is nothing but the role. Okay, so UPSC may use different language also, but in general, the content will remain same, all right? So so once you know this, that in the past, these types of questions have come. So you get all these dimensions. You can take a look at the syllabus also, and in syllabus, you'll see that what they have written is pressure groups and formal, informal associations and their role. So they have directly given this term. Role is mentioned here, and you will see that every year they're asking in some way or the other role played by them, okay? And also they have also given formal and informal. So you should know what is formal, what makes something formal, what makes something informal, okay? What is the basis on which we do that? So here, long story short, how do you make your content you start with pressure groups. So first thing that you should do is to build content, okay? So once you are building content, what should be your thing? That first, you should know about if you're making notes on pressure group. So this is called making your note precise, organized, okay? So you need to make, because you must have studied maybe 10 pages, 20 pages on pressure group, but you may not have organized your points. So this is the first thing that you should do before answer writing, that you need to organize your points, all right? So here what you can do is, you should first start with what is pressure group. First, why we need pressure group. So why, if in case you ask this question why, this will give you two things, or one thing which is role played by pressure group or the functions of pressure groups. Now here role can have two implications. There can be some positive role and there can be some negative or critical thing that will be there. So here again you can talk about positive and negative. Again, you don't need to go in much detail. Just 3-4 points with example or data is more than sufficient. All right. Then what else? You need to know about the types of pressure group. What are the types? And on what basis are we classifying them? All right. Then what do we need? We need also that what kind of role or what kind of the recent performance status, right? Or when you study about what, okay, so what should you know about the basic idea? What is the idea behind pressure group? Is it part of constitution? Has constitution talked about pressure group anywhere? Directly or indirectly? Indirectly, has it mentioned? Which article? 19(1)(c). All right. So again, whenever you read any body, so in a way it is a body, right? So it's an body, then you need to know about what is it, where it is positioned, from which constitutional provision does it derive its value. So it is Article 19(1)(c). What is this Article 1(c)? Yes, freedom to form association, union or cooperatives. All right, so that is, so again, see, they will not ask you, or maybe you'll not find this anywhere. You have to think that what is the implied meaning of certain articles and does it correspond to something, right? So here, and then you can also talk about if there is any Supreme Court judgment that talks about this. So again, that would be in terms of value addition, but this is something that you must do. That will help you to structure your thoughts in a very proper way. And it will also take into consideration everything that has been asked in UPSC, right? I have just given you this example, but do this thing for all the questions that have come in the past. I'm pretty sure that you will be able to solve like 80 to 70% of your content will be covered by this, right? There will be some question which will not fall into this, which will be very dynamic in nature, which will be very much influenced by current affairs, and they will, basically what they will do, they will combine various items from the syllabus, okay? But more or less, this approach will help you build your content. Now take a look at this answer, or let's first talk about this question itself. With suitable examples, discuss. So what are the keywords here? So whenever you get a question, the first thing that you should do is to identify what is asked of you. And for that, it is always a good idea to underline the keywords. So what are the keywords here? ठीक है, pressure group है ना? तो pressure group, okay, so first thing, सबसे basic, never miss out on the basics, okay? So first thing is example, so you have to give examples. Second, how and pressure groups. Public participation and responsiveness with regard to environmental policies, also in India. Not anywhere else, but India. So that is the demand of the question, right? So first thing, in introduction, so all of you, I'm sure that know that a basic answer contains 3 structure. You have introduction, you have body, you have conclusion, right? Everyone knows this. Okay, so introduction. So we'll talk about what are the types of introduction, how we can write it, but in general, let's talk about this. So what could be a good approach of starting the introduction? Definition of pressure group, right? So that would be a very good idea. You can talk about what is pressure group. Okay, you can talk about what is pressure group, and here you can talk about what is exactly is the meaning and what is the idea behind pressure group. You can give some examples also. You can talk about constitutional provisions as also that you can do here. Anything else? Any other approach that can be used here? Can you recall any report? Or current affairs, right? Current affairs, you can also write about current affairs, maybe anything that has happened. For example, Greenpeace was in news, right? Any other news, whichever pressure group is in news. For example, some trade unions were in news, so you can talk about that as well. But in such cases, the safest approach would be to go with the exam or the definition, right? And the definition need not be what is written in the book. So a lot of people have this confusion that should we remember whatever is given in the book or notes and write it as it is, which is given. So that is not possible. Do not try to memorize it. Just have your basic understanding, okay? So yes, what is pressure, you can mention here. Then in body, you'll talk about what? Exactly, very good. Role of pressure group. So will you write this separately, or will you provide, or will you provide about public participation separately and responsiveness separately, or will you write it together?
Basically, sir, public participation का जो तरीका है, उसमें responsiveness कैसा बढ़ा, और उसका environment policy में क्या असर पड़ा, इन तीनों की link करने की कोशिश करें.
Okay, so will you write it separately or it together? कैसे करोगे? एक साथ ही लिखोगे? अलग-अलग. Anyone who will write together? Exactly. देखो again यहाँ पे 150 words है, so you can like both approach can work. It depends on your answer writing skills कि within this also participation का part भी आप लिख सकते हो यहाँ पे. You can talk about 3-4 points here, और यहाँ पे role of pressure groups in responsiveness, और यहाँ पे भी 3-4 point लिख सकते हो, ठीक है? That is also acceptable. But the question is not in generic sense, it is with regard to environmental policies. Now how your content will change? Because it cannot be the same thing that you can write with regard to generic function. So how would you change that? So here, whatever environmental policies, जैसे क्या होगा कि there will be some generic functions played by pressure groups, right? What are the functions played by pressure groups? Interest articulation, right? Policy responsiveness, electioneering, lobbying, all these things happen, right? So you can talk about all these functions, how they improve the participation. So first of all, it will improve the participation because in the sense that it will bring people to demand better things from the government, to influence or to bring some sort of pressure on the government, right? For example, Delhi pollution, right? So example, the GRAP measures, GRAP measures was basically happened because of the activities of CSE, right? So again, you have to give examples as well. RA forest example you can mention about, right? So here again, participation responsiveness, right? So how government is responding to it. You can also give example of informal types of some activities as well. Trade union, basically not trade union, but something which Narmada Bachao Andolan could be given, right? Because they have not mentioned that you have to talk about recent. So आप पुराना भी दे सकते हो examples. Narmada Bachao Andolan, right? Or you can talk about all these things, right? So let's take a look at how toppers have written this. So this is the answer script of Aditya Srivastav, All India Rank 1 last year. See, in introduction what he has written is, pressure groups are a group of organized people formed while exercising rights under Article 19(1)(b. Not factually correct, है ना? और introduction भी आप देखोगे तो it's not that good, है ना? But he has still written something, okay? He did not know exactly, it may be organized, it may not be organized as well, right? So again, but the thing is, it will still get some marks, okay? Maybe he could, if you do not know exact provision, you can just write under Article 19. That would be good enough, okay? Do not write things which you are not sure about, but still this would work, okay? Now what he has done is, he has just given one aspect of this, right? Public participation. And in this, there are two sections here, right? So there are two boxes, one here, and the second one is about this, and third is way ahead, okay? So here what he has done is, he's talked about interest articulation. Again, there is no specific role played by environmental pressure group, okay? you have to know the role, the general role played by pressure group, and then through examples, you can tell how this particular case is applicable in terms of environment, right? Only through examples you can portray that. So what he has done is, he's talked about interest articulation means knowing exactly what exactly is the demand of the people. So people do not articulate their demand because once they do not, first of all, understand the issue. So first, the role of pressure group is to sensitize people about the magnitude of something, right? For example, Narmada Bachao Andolan basically talked about how it will lead to displacement of people. Right? So basically tribals from, as a result of the dam, and also it talked about lack of inclusive growth and development. So basically it was an environmental concern that they talked about. So first of all, you need to articulate your interest, and here you can just talk about this, bringing people to government, and this example you can give, okay? Then political socialization, telling people about the political process, RA group using petition. Socialization or political awareness, you can also mention if you do not want to, if you do not have specific vocabulary, you can also write political awareness. That would also work. There's no need to write these specific terms, okay? Again, here examples is a must because they have written with suitable examples. So examples becomes very important, all right? Then generate more interest among the people via education. Here also you can write example of CSE, Down to Earth. You have heard about this, Down to Earth. Again, it's a magazine which talks about various environmental things, and it can also very well align with this. So you can also use this thing to showcase how diverse your readings are, all right? Improve responsiveness. So again, he has given this part only one thing, only one point he has mentioned about responsiveness. By holding government accountable, example, Greenpeace reports. Again, if possible, you can talk about how it is going, because just by giving example is not sometimes sufficient. If you have knowledge, you can talk about how this example is relevant here, okay? Help to improve the arena of democratization via acting as people's right emancipation. Okay, that is fine. So again, the point is that you have mentioned 4 or 5 points here, and then you have also provided challenges. But do you think the challenges should be written or occupy so much space here? See, again, if you look exactly in terms of this, right? If you look at the demand of the question, in such cases, I would say your 60 to 65% space should lie with the demand of the question. Okay, and then maybe 10 to 15% can be with regard to critical aspect. Right, so maybe 2-3 points would be good enough, right? You should more or less, because the demand of the question was to also highlight the responsiveness. So it would be better if you enlarge these points and talked about these points in more detail, right? But again, he is topper, he has gained more marks, so it's a good idea to use his examples, right? But the point is that you can also talk about some critical aspects. 2-3 points would be good enough, okay? And here, then you can talk about the conclusion. The point is, again, that you already have the conclusion or the content present in you, right? Content you have already provided, and the question, again, will be only a subset of what you have prepared, all right? Next question. Let's take a look at this question. How many of you have not heard about Dada Bhai Nehru? किसने नहीं सुना है इसके बारे में? At least पढ़ा होगा. Maybe you do not recall what his contributions were, but you largely have read about him, right? Okay. So I deliberately included this question to show you one thing again. How to write specific answers. From generic content. Right? So you may have certain generic content. Okay. So in case something very specific comes, so it can be anything, right? So it's maybe Dadabhai Naroji, there can be questions when Gokhale, Tilak could be there, or anyone, right? So their name could be different, right? But you may not recall the significant or the specific provisions, specific contributions. But what you would recall is the contributions of moderates. He was a moderate. Now, the question is, you have to talk about the contribution of moderates and just give couple of examples of Dadabhai Naroji, right? So you can do that, isn't it? And this has come in past in UPSC as well. So UPSC, if you look at PYQs from the moderates, so I hope that all of you know what moderates are, right? To what extent did the role of moderates prepare a base for the wider freedom movement? So they're basically asking about the role played by moderates or the functions, contributions of the moderate. Why did the moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation? And again, from this topic, a question also came in prelims, right? There was a very specific way in which they asked this question in a indirect way in the prelims as well. Why did the moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation about their proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of 19th century, right? So the point is that UPSC has asked the question of role of moderates. So when you study about role of moderates, you need to study about various personalities that were involved in this, right? So Dadabhai Naroji was one of the most prominent personalities associated with the moderates, all right? Especially he was known as the grand old man of India and also gave the drain theory. So if you knew just these two things, you would build up your content, okay? And let's take a look at what the topper has written. And this is a top copy from, again, All India Rank 1 of 2020, Shubham Kumar. So what he has written is, Dadabhai Naroji also known as Grand Old Man of India, left a distinct mark in modern Indian history, okay? So it's an acceptable form of introduction. You have talked about who he was known as. So in case any such question asked, for example, contribution of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose or Subhash Chandra Bose. So you can talk about what he was known as and what was his contribution. You can also talk about his, since it's a history question, it's a good idea to talk about time, some time period or time limit, right? So here he has mentioned about, or you can talk about the late or the 19th century, okay? Now, what are his contribution? Exposed the British rule, wrote about economic drain theory, un-British rule in India. So this was a book that he has written. Second is presided over Congress meeting. Again, you know that Congress used to have annual meetings where they discuss they gathered for 3 days and they would discuss all the policies conducted by the British government, right? And there were all the prominent personalities, they were part of, or they became the president. So this you can definitely derive at, even not knowing the content, right? So he has not mentioned. बिल्कुल, definitely. हाँ, बिल्कुल. See, this is the point that the reason why I'm mentioning is that you do not need to know everything to start writing, है ना? आपको कुछ नहीं भी पता है तो भी आप लिख सकते हो, but you need to start writing. आपको लगता होगा कि maybe you do not have adequate content, but that should not stop you from writing answers. You have the content, trust me. If you have prepared for prelims, and especially if you have gone or you have cleared prelims, then it means that you have content. What you need to do is you need to structure your content properly, like we discussed earlier. You need to organize your content and then just write the answer. Do not worry that whether it is a very specific question or not. Then formed East India Association, So this could be a political contribution. Within political contribution, you can write this. That would be even more logical. But here, Shubham Kumar knew about this, so he has mentioned about this. Moderate phase of the Congress. He led Congress from this to this phase, fought British through this. Again, all these things are nothing very specific about Dadabhai Naoroji. It is just any leader of moderate phase would have done. Okay, right? And then finally, you can talk about the conclusion. The thing is also not just the content, also notice the way in which the answer is presented. The answer, all the keywords are underlined. Different demand is met, right, through boxes to showcase, to ease the convenience. For the convenience of the examiner, it is written in boxes, right? And sometimes it is double, like not every point is in box. Sometimes he has used double linings or double underlinings. So try to use or try to learn from them. This is called reverse engineering. You are learning from the toppers, not by what they say, but what by they do. And this is what they have done, and this is what you can learn from them. Okay, so this was just the introduction or the basic discussion, and the lecture here will basically tell you about the overview, the importance of answer writing. There's a very famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche: "Those who have a why can figure out any how." So why is very important. Once you understand the why, you will understand the how, which is known as the process. So why बहुत important है समझना. Once you understand why, you will understand the how. So it is very important to understand why we need this. Then what exactly is UPSC main syllabus? Trust me, a lot of people go to writing mains and they are not aware of the syllabus. What exactly is the syllabus? And only after they have given mains, they go, they check the syllabus. So it's important that you have the syllabus with you all the time, and you need to know and go through it again and again. Deconstruct it. Then what are the different components of an answer writing? We'll deconstruct that. There will be some practice questions also involved here. Okay. And then we'll talk about what we'll have 5 classes in this. This is going to be the first class, and then followed by there will be 5 more classes which will focus upon different areas of answer writing. So what do toppers talk about answer writing? So basically this is about why answer writing. Okay. So this is in terms of what toppers say. This is Ashima Mittal, scored, she got All India rank 12 in 2017. She said that a jump from 833 to 921 marks. How have I done it? Answer writing. Answer writing has played the most important role, to say the least. Okay, most with least. Okay, so you can see how she has used word in a very creative manner. Okay, so the point is that if you are stuck in main stage, right, you are giving mains again and again, and you are still going for the content, then perhaps it's not going to work for you. You need to start writing answers, okay? Because only through writing answers, you'll identify what are the important areas that you need to focus upon, how to improve upon things, okay? How to improve your time management, everything. Then this is by Shubham Kumar, All India Rank 1 of 2020. He said that I used to keep quotes in front of my study table, which were very dear to me. One was, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. And this is very important, right? So the more answer writing practice you do, the lesser time it will take in actual mains, right? I wrote it on a piece of paper and stuck in front of me to remind myself that the better you prepare now, the less stress you will have in the examination hall. And trust me, there will be a lot of stress during exam hall. Those who have written mains can tell you, right? Because again, there is a pressure of completing the questions on time. Then there would be some invigilators who will come with your roll number. You'll have to fill all these bubbles, right? So it is a period of a huge stress. And during stress, what happens is we have 2 mechanisms. We have fight or flight, okay? And if you have not prepared for fight, you will basically just make sure that you have written something and you'll want to get away from that situation, okay? So you need to practice. This is because you have to write 150 words for a 10-marker question in 7 minutes. And 250 words over 3 pages in 10 to 11 minutes. It becomes very difficult to write something new because questions will be new. Questions will not be from the things which you have studied. They will invent or they will make new questions or try something new under such constraint. So you need to be in this habit that you are exposed to different type of questions. right? So the questions maybe which are familiar, you have already prepared your content, but there will be some questions which are completely new to you. Then how do you interpret those questions? How do you make sure that how much time you are giving them? What kind of presentation tools you should be using, right? And how should you overall manage your time, okay? Because it's not just about one or two questions, it's about managing your time in the entire paper, okay? So you need to maximize your marks for the entire paper, not just for one question, all right? And this can only happen when you practice answer writing. Next, Gamini Singla, All India Rank 3 of 2021, what she said was, the first step toward answer writing is to start writing, without worrying about how you are writing, whether it's good or not. See, when you start any activity, be it whether you start driving or riding a bicycle or going to a gym, you will not be good at it from day one. That is fact, right? You will not be good at it from day one. You need to practice. And you only build up from what you have started, okay? So maybe you have written very bad answer. It's fine. Just keep on it, work on it, try to see where you can improve, okay? And then you will definitely see that you are improving. You need to open the barrier in answer writing. Then as you continue writing every day, practice will help you improve, as practice makes the man or woman perfect, okay? So that is very important. Next, Wasim Ahmed Bhatt. Now she has written, given a very important quote. Answer writing is science as well as art. Why it is science and why it is an art? Science because it's about content, and art because it's about long-term development through experience. So science because you have to understand the demand. If there are 3 parts of the question, you cannot change that fact. It's not that if you can write one part very beautifully and leave out the second 2 parts, you will get additional marks because you have written one part very beautifully. No, you have to write all the parts. Second, you have to write only what is required, only what is asked, not what you know. In case what you know, you write what you know, then perhaps they will not give you enough marks or even 0 marks. Why it is art? Because you can use your creativity. You can use your experience. You can pick out the reasons that you like. Okay, you can pick out examples. It's not necessary that you need to pick only things which the Hindu has mentioned or the Indian Express has mentioned. In case whatever you have studied, you can use those examples even from your life. For example, in ethics, they ask you questions based on your life. They will ask very abstract question that what does happiness mean to you, right? What does patriotism mean to you? So here you have to write from your own experience. They have also asked a question like, which moral philosopher has influenced your life in the most significant way, and why this teaching has resonated in your life? So again, it calls upon to draw from your experience, right? So for answer writing, you have to write 10 or write a lot of answers. The more you write, the better your answers will become, whether your knowledge improves or not. So this is very important, that with the same amount of knowledge, you can write very different answers. So maybe in this class itself or any other class, right? So there will be some faculty who will be teaching the same content to a group of people. But the same, like there would be 10 people and they will write 10 different answers, because answer writing is highly subjective in nature, all right? But writing the answer itself will become your unconscious habit. So essentially what writing does, it brings clarity. It brings clarity, it helps us in connecting the dots, okay? And it is essential to connect the dots, because without connecting the dot, you cannot understand the entire picture, all right? A last quote from Animesh Pradhan, All India Rank 2, UPSC CSE 2023. I have done an immense amount of answer writing by giving and attempting tests, which used to be evaluated, and then I used to improve upon them. Very simple line, but very, very important. Okay, why it is important? Because he's talking about something known as a very important phenomena, which is called deliberate practice. See, practice alone is not sufficient. You need to practice deliberately, okay? So there's a book, I think it's by Angela Angworth, or there was another couple of writers who have talked about how do you improve significantly, okay? So there are 2 schools of thought. One is by the proponents of 20,000 hours given by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't remember, I think it's 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell. So he talks about that you need to practice something for maybe 10,000 hours, repeat it, then only you become better at it or you become a master at it. Then another school of thought, it says that you don't need to spend so many time for something. You can practice deliberately and you can fast track your preparation strategy. You can fast track your progress, and that is what is known as deliberate practice. So what exactly is normal practice does is that you are just looking at questions and you are attempting it, you're not getting feedback. You think that you are writing good answers in your mind, but you don't know whether you are writing good or not first. You do not know what kind of progress or what kind of feedback or what kind of things that you need to eliminate from your answer writing or what kind of thing you need to incorporate in your answer writing. That can only come when there is someone who is telling you or giving you some feedback. It need not be any test series, it need not be any institution or a mentor. It can be just by any other your friend. Though they can also give you feedback, but it's important to get feedback. Because inherently, for us, our answer is the best answer, है ना? हमें लगता है कि जो हमने लिखा है उससे बेटर कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता है. So we have some sort of emotional component involved with it. So it is important that we let go of our ego. Even if you are all India rank 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, you need to make sure that whatever you have written needs to be scrutinized by somebody else other than you. Even you can use ChatGPT or AI tools, right? They can also give you some feedback on how you have written. But it is better to go for someone who has experience of this process, right? So the point is that you give test, you evaluate, and then I used to improve upon them. So so you need to give test, then you need to get feedback. But if in case you are not working on that feedback, if you're just sitting on that feedback, then it will be of no use. You also need to incorporate that feedback, okay, from the later test. Then you will find that you are improving a lot. And this can definitely short circuit your preparation, like it can really improve your preparation process. Now let's talk about the marks, okay, and why it is important to write from this perspective. This is the scorecard of Aditya Srivastava. If you look at his total marks, written marks, it is 899, okay, which is close to 51.37%. And these marks of all India rank, say who got 489 was 807, which is nothing but less than 5% of this, 46%. Do you know the rank of the student who got 42%? Any idea? He did not get any rank, no selection. Okay? So the question is, or the point is that this gap is just 10%. The person who is getting 40% of mark is not a bad student at all. He's a good student. But the competition is that much that if you are not in this range, then you will not be, or you will not make it to the list, because the question is very brutal, and for every number you need to fight, okay? So here also you can see that in 2020, Shubham Kumar got total marks of 878, but the mains marks of last candidate got 736. Not too much difference, I would say. There is a difference, but not that much difference. But again, if you can see that even person who got 735 could not make it to the list, okay? And this is why it is important, because those who are scoring in the top 25, their marks basically hover from 450 or in this range, from 475 to 394. So essential mean you can say is, say, 438 or 440, which translate to how many marks per subject? 110, 110 marks out of 250. So again, it requires a lot of answer writing practice, because content alone will not give you marks. Unless you prioritize your time, unless you ensure that you bring something different from the other candidates in terms of presentation, in terms of examples, in terms of data, statistics, you will not be awarded that extra marks. And cumulatively, this will definitely pull down your score, right? So make sure that you utilize all the tricks and all the tools that are there. So just to sum up the importance of mains examination, what we have studied, is that it is the most essential tool. We all know that the overall weightage is close to 86%. interview is for 275 marks, which basically is 14% of the overall exam, and mains basically is the one stage that helps you get the desired result, right? And we have also seen that various students, and I've taken example of 2 students who have, even without very poor interview scores, they have managed to score a good rank because of their performance in mains. So in mains, if you perform really well, it can also insulate you from the vagaries of the interview process, right? For example, Rachit Raj, he got All India Rank 3 in 2023 with a PT score of just 138 marks. Trust me, 138 is among the lowest marks which you can score in personality test, right? So his main score was 796, which was at that point of time the highest, among the highest. I think the highest, the GS score of All India Rank 1 of that time was close to 738, okay? So again, when you score very well in mains, you can insulate yourself from the various unpredictability of the personality test. So again, it is very essential. Now the question is, how do you start writing, okay? First thing is, like we'll discuss the basic approach, but the first thing that you should know is about the notification. That is the first channel of UPSC from with the students, okay? So UPSC has recently released its notification. How many of you have gone through it word to word, like the actual notification? Maybe you have watched some video. नहीं, जल्दबाजी में नहीं करना है. देखो, see, this is something that is official, okay, and it is published by UPSC, and it is something which UPSC is trying to maintain a contact or dialogue with the aspirants. I don't think there should be any intermediary there. You should directly go and read the notification yourself. Understand what are UPSC looking for at each stages. You may have some idea already about this, but it is good thing to go and check what UPSC expects and what exactly is UPSC talking about. So yes, this you will be aware about what are the weightage, all these things you will be aware. And you can also take a look at the syllabus, take a printout of this, because this is again very essential. And here, try to make sure that you have all these syllabus like in subject kind of classified manner. For example, you should know what exactly is there in history plus art of culture. You should know what is there in Indian society, exact word to word, whatever which I've mentioned, especially also in geography. Same, you should try to break down all these subjects in various subjects, in various components. Like for example, what is there in governance, what is there in constitution, polity. And same goes for social justice, IR, economics, science and technology, every subject. So make sure that you have this printed out somewhere and do such kind of syllabus mapping. Like again, this is a very effective strategy because syllabus mapping helps you to generate content. Okay, syllabus mapping will help you to generate content. So sometimes when a question is asked to you and you do not know what the demand of the question is, you need to first identify or think from which part of syllabus is it asked. Okay, so you should ask from which part of the syllabus it is asked, and then you can identify what are the core areas that the subject talks or the syllabus talks about from this perspective. For example, take a look at these things. What is cryptocurrency? Last question. What is cryptocurrency? How does it affect global society? Has it been affecting Indian society also? Okay. So this can be this question has already been asked in 2021. Now it is possible that they will just replace cryptocurrency with artificial intelligence or large language modules, right? Anything they can ask, right? So maybe they can ask, what is AI? How does it affect global society? Has it been affecting Indian society also? Now, from which part of this syllabus it is taken from? This is not like which specific point? Science and tech? So basically, this is not a science and tech question, first of all. ठीक है, ये साइंस एंड टेक का नहीं है, दिस इज अ सोसाइटी क्वेश्चन, इंडियन सोसाइटी क्वेश्चन. ओके, so UPSC has been asking question on globalization. What is globalization? What is its impact on Indian society? Okay, so yes, you need to know this. The basic understanding, this comes from science and tech, but its impact is asked on global society and also on Indian society. All right, so basically you can take a look at this. It's an intersection of this science and technology, the developments and their applications in day-to-day life. So yes, a major development at that point of time was cryptocurrency. This time it is artificial intelligence, right? Then effects of globalization on Indian society. Again, there is a huge role globalization impacts Indian society as well. So globalization also include the development of international or technologies as well. So technologies also have a profound impact on Indian society as well, right? So again, the point is that you should know, in case you do not know the impact of cryptocurrency on Indian society, right? You do not know, but you know about impact of globalization on Indian society, right? So you will study some positive aspect, or you'll write about some positive aspects, and you'll write some negative aspects. Okay, same thing here you have to do for this as well. There will be impact in terms of what? In terms of employment, in terms of migration, in terms of various ways in which we communicate, okay? All these things will be there, and you just need to apply and think to what extent I can use my understanding from the syllabus which is mentioned and use it for this particular question. Same thing is applicable for others as well. Explore and evaluate the impact of work from home on family relation. This is a pure society question, okay? But again, this was something that was in news, work from home, and they have asked on family relations. Okay, so what could be some of the ways in which, how would you attempt this question? How would you translate it to the general and then bring back the specifics? कैसे करोगे? नहीं नहीं, देखो मेरा क्वेश्चन का ये मतलब है कि this is a question that is given to you, right? Now, you may not know about the impact of work from home on family relations. Okay, but how would you first, you have to map it to the syllabus. You need to understand what is asked in the generic, like in what is the general thing that you study. And then from the general, how do you derive these specific points? Okay, not, you don't have to generate any new points, but just you have to generate points from the things which you have already studied. है ना? So how would you go about it? See, it is basically about family relations, family dynamics. सबसे important role इसमें क्या होता है? क्या इसमें, what do you study in family relation, family or any structure? Huh? Yes, very good. So again, in case of family, what are the important data? What are the things which are there? Role of women, role of parents, how to rear children. Okay, all these things are there. Now, what you have to do is you have to think along these dimensions from work from home. So now you have to think, what is the role of women now? Has the burden on women increased or decreased? Right, double. So we talk about double burden of women, right? So this double burden, has it increased or decreased from work from home? That could be one. Impact on children. So are children getting socialized properly or not? Right, so you can talk about that as well. Now impact on parents. Are they feeling more lonely or less lonely? Because children are there, so there will be some impact, right? Then you can talk about other things as well. So the point is that you do have content. You just need to think in that perspective. And this will come only when you do answer writing. And for this, one step that you can do is to map the questions from the syllabus. Okay? So I'm just giving some examples. But this is the reason why you should do it, because then you can use some principles from that syllabus and try to use it in that specific context. Okay? So importance of answer writing practice, just to consolidate. It helps in articulation and clarity, right? Articulation means how do you present your ideas? To present your ideas. For example, if I ask you, what are the salient features of Indian Constitution? Okay, I'm sure that all of you have an idea about the salient features of Indian Constitution, right? But how would you articulate things which you already know? Which points do you give as the first point? And are you also giving some justification, or you have just randomly put everything, whichever points came to your mind first, you have just randomly written it, okay? Are you also providing some sort of examples? Are you comparing Indian Constitution with that of other constitution, giving some context to it, right? So the point is that you may know the content, but it is important for you to improve your articulation. Articulation do not just mean use of fancy vocabulary. It also means some sort of clarity in terms of which points are you prioritizing first, okay? It also helps in clarity. So when you write any answer, okay, you'll feel that you have basically connected the dots, okay? In a way, you have connected the dots. You now understand things in a very comprehensive manner. Because when we read something, we are only reading a very subset, very small section of something. Okay, for example, when we are reading about, say, Jan Dhan Yojana or any other scheme, okay? So there may be some time you will know about the various features which is there about Jan Dhan Yojana. And you will be happy that you know all about Jan Dhan Yojana. Or there is something called Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, right? So recently it has been propagated. So you will be aware about all the features of BNS or BNSS or Bharatiya Sakshya Samhita or all. The point is that you will be aware about the features, but it is not something that is complete in nature. You also need to understand its impact or its positive contributions or positives or its achievements or what improvement is it bringing or its criticism, and what can be done way ahead. So when you write a question, it is rarely that they will ask you any factual question like this, that tell me the features of Jan Dhan Yojana. They will ask you to critically examine it. So when you do something called critical examination of something, you not only talk about the positive aspects, you also talk about some of the negative aspects. Because in real life, things rarely work in ideal way. There's always some gray areas. So you need to identify, is there any gray area or not? And you need to be constructive in nature, in the sense that you need to say that what can be done to improve upon this situation, okay? This will not come merely by reading. This will come only through writing, because when you write, then even if you know 3-4 features, even if you know 3-4 positives, 3-4 negatives, you are rounded in your approach, because you have understood the thing from a very comprehensive perspective, and this can come only from answer writing, okay? Then it helps in effective utilization or revision of content. See, again, we know that UPSC will rarely use direct questions which you have studied in your books, okay? So UPSC will tweak questions, right? It will ask you different types of questions. It will mix and match current affairs from it, right? It will mix different concepts, like we talked about in society questions. What is AI? What is cryptocurrency? What are its impact on Indian society? So it will mix one genre with that of other, or one subject with that of other. So there will be intersection of society and technology. There may be intersection of polity and society, right? For example, one nation, one election. What would be its impact on Indian society? So you may have studied it in terms of polity, in terms of the constitutional requirement which is there, or in terms of the challenges that states are facing or states have. But you also need to understand its impact on Indian society, right? So you need to train your mind to think from this perspective, from this analytical perspective, and this will come when you are practicing answer writing. And it will also help you with revision of content, and it's a very effective way to revise your content. Because see, again, there have been a lot of research done to highlight what kind of revision method works best. So there is one method of things that you revise you read everything end to end, you keep reading that things again end to end. Or the second thing is you write something based on it, okay? And every time the persons who are using revision strategy based on writing, they have better retention skills. Okay, so make sure that you revise your content through answer writing. This helps in retention as well. So you will be able to use your data, examples, anecdotes that you have prepared very diligently through answer writing. And trust me, it will not come directly in the exam. It will not happen that even though you have prepared something and you have not used that beforehand, you will be able to write it. It will not come unless you have practiced it. That's why it is very essential. Then it enhances your time management skill. You will understand which questions you are supposed to attempt and which questions you are supposed to skip first. How should you prioritize? In 1 hour, how many questions you are supposed to do? In 2 hours, 3 hours. So you will have some knowledge that, okay, by 1 hour, I should have completed 8 questions, or 1 hour I should have completed 6 questions. And when you are in actual exam, then you will be confident that, okay, by now I have completed these many questions, so I'm on the right track. If you have not done this thing, if you are pulling or you are behind this, then you will be in no position to improve upon this thing. And trust me, unless you have practiced this, you will always make mistakes here. You will always end up prioritizing or giving or writing too good answer in the first hour. You will try to write very good answer in the first hour or maybe 1.5 hours. Then you will see that more than 10 questions are still remaining or 15 questions are still remaining. Okay, so you need to prioritize your time management as well. You need to know which questions to select, which questions to write for later. Okay, should I start from 1, 2, 3, or shall I start from the questions which I am comfortable with? Again, there is no right or wrong answer here. It has to be decided by you, and that can be only decided when you practice answers. Okay. Then it helps in content enrichment. See, what happens is for a lot of subjects, okay, for example, internal security, disaster management, or even science and technology, art and culture, there is no end of content, okay? And the content that you prepare can be immensely enriched through the questions that you get in mocks, okay? Because they will give you some very specific questions, and these questions can also add as your content. So use the questions as content in subtopics. Obviously, it will not be used for polity or subjects like economy, because for that you have specific subject books and also you have notes. But for very vague subjects like questions, topics from, in fact, even for international relations, right? Because international relations is a very open-ended subject, right? It will, you may study from current affairs, but the questions that come in the examination are very, very dicey in nature. You do not know the whole subject matter or the dimension that can be asked. It's a very open-ended type and very dynamic in nature. So the questions will help you understand the dimensions and the direction in which you should go. Also, when it comes to ethics case study. So once you have solved, say, 7, 8, 10, 12 types of case studies, you will understand that what in such kind of ethics case study, what should be the course of action that you should choose. What are the types of ethical dilemmas? So more or less, if you have practiced 10, 12 case studies, these dilemmas will be similar. They will not be any different dilemmas. So you have to identify certain key principles that are being violated, and then you have to provide a course of action. So this can easily be managed if you are practicing mocks, if you are writing questions on a daily basis. Okay. Next, we should know what exactly UPSC expects from an answer. I'm sure that all of you or some of you have read this, but I'll just, for the sake of knowing that everyone is on the right or on the level playing field, we should be going through this again. So main examination is intended to assess the overall intellectual traits and depth, okay? Depth of understanding, rather than merely the range of information. So what it means is, so if I ask you a question on what are the...
Does your current affairs preparation feel unorganized and scattered? Vision IA's digital current affairs platform brings everything you need under one roof. Whether you are starting with the basics or looking to refine your preparation, Vision IAS Digital Current Affairs premium features include Vision Intelligence. Get AI-driven responses to your current affairs questions. Instant, syllabus-aligned and precise. Daily answer writing. Enhance your mains preparation with structured answer writing and expert feedback. Quick notes and highlights. Streamline your note-taking and create personalized revision materials for easy reference. And free features include daily news summaries. Stay updated with curated insights from trusted sources like The Hindu and Indian Express, saving you valuable time. Downloadable PDFs. Organize study materials efficiently for seamless revision. Daily quizzes. Sharpen your knowledge with MCQs that track your progress and reinforce learning. Student dashboard. Keep your preparation on track with a performance monitoring system. Visit our website to explore the features and get started today.
The final step of your UPSC journey is here, the personality test. Are you ready to face the panel with confidence? This stage isn't just about what you know, it's about how you present yourself. At Vision IAS, our personality development program is designed to prepare you for success. Here's how we help you shine. Decode detailed application form with expert insights for key questions. Mock interviews with ex-bureaucrats and top mentors. Current affairs sessions for a broader perspective. Sharpen communication and presentation skills. Toppers and serving officers share real-world strategies to help you stand out. This is your moment. Shape your success, work on your presentation, and own the UPSC personality test. Admissions open for UPSC Mains 2024 qualified students. Prelims is knocking at your doorstep. Are you ready to conquer it heads-on? Do not let the paucity of time determine your success in UPSC Prelims 2025. Fast-pace your preparation with the fast-track course offering coverage of syllabus ranging from polity, economy, geography, environment, international relations, science and technology, art and culture, and Indian history. Starting fresh or looking for revision guidance, fast-track course has got you covered. Enroll for coverage of GS Prelims syllabus, personalized mentoring, current affairs preparation, sectional mini tests, access to live and online classes. Admission to the course is now open.
Significant features of Indian Constitution. So instead of providing the range of information, give me depth. Okay. But इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि बस आपने एक ही पॉइंट लिख दिया और इसी को पूरा एक्सप्लेन कर दिया. नो. ओके. डेप्थ बताना है मतलब कि यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड रीजंस, यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड दैट हैव यू अंडरस्टूड द क्रक्स ऑफ द थिंग और नॉट. ओके. The nature and standard of questions in the general studies paper will be such that a well-educated person will be able to answer them without any specialized study. I don't think there's any bigger liar than this, right? You need specialized study. The questions will be such as to test a candidate's general awareness of a variety of subjects which will have relevance for a career in civil service. So I think this line is very important, is that you should, whenever a question comes to you, okay, you should always think of yourself that you are actually in the field, and now this is something that has happened in your district, and now you have to provide a response for it, okay, because all the subjects, invariably you will see that all of them have some relevance in as a career in civil service, be it international relations when you are posted as a foreign service officer, right, or when it comes to geography or disaster management, right, all of them have some bearing as far as career in civil services is concerned, right? So you should think like that, think like an officer, and try to provide reasons, okay, because when you go and provide a course of action to your senior, they will ask you, or your minister, they will ask you question, that on what basis are you suggesting these measures, right? So you need to provide some data, you need to provide some examples, all right? The questions are likely to test the candidate's basic understanding of all relevant issues and ability to analyze, take a view, right? So you need to take a view. Sab jagah pe you don't have to take a balancing perspective. Sometimes you need to take a view also. On conflicting socio-economic goals. So in our country, we have various socio-economic goals that are conflicting in nature. Should uniform civil code be there in India or implemented in the entire India or not? Should MSP be given for MSP be legalized in India or not, right? So all these have different objectives, or all these will gather different types of perspective from depending on the kind of people that you ask. But as an administrator, what should be your perspective? That you are aware of all the pros and cons, and then you are taking a decision which is in alignment with that of Constitution and that of Supreme Court judgment. All right. For example, bulldozer justice. So if you are from UP, especially, then maybe this question will be asked to you in your personality test. But maybe, right? So how, to what extent it is justified, right? So here you have to understand the meaning of justice. So can bulldozer justice be considered as part of justice? No, right? So it is retributive in nature, and also Supreme Court has given certain remarks on this. So you need to incorporate those remarks when you write answers, okay? You need to be objective as well, and demands, the candidate must give, now this is very important, must give relevant. So the answer that you give need to be relevant. ऐसा नहीं कि जो भी आपको पता है वो आपने लिख दिया है. No, it needs to be relevant. It needs to be meaningful. The examiner should be able to understand what you have written, both in terms of your writing or also in terms of your vocabulary. ऐसा नहीं कि आपने बहुत ही ऐसी vocabulary use कर दी जो शशि थरूर भी नहीं समझ पाए, है ना? वैसा भी नहीं करना है, और थोड़ा सा उसको क्लियर रखना है. So for this, what you should do is to use simple language so that even any person can understand it. They should not take too much effort to understand what you are trying to convey to the examiner. And it should be succinct. It should not be unnecessarily long in nature, right? It should be short and precise, all right? So देखो ये UPSC has mentioned in its notification what it expects from a good answer. And they have also mentioned some basic rules as well, that if a candidate's handwriting is not easily legible, a deduction will be made on this account. So you should know that your writing should be at least legible, कुछ पढ़ सके, कुछ समझ में आ सके. Marks will not be allotted for mere superficial knowledge. Question कुछ भी पूछ दिया है, जैसे कि एक बार question आया था with regard to McBride Commission. Okay, so there was a question about McBride Commission. And nobody, trust me, nobody knew the answer to that question. So a lot of people who were extra smart, so they talked about McDonaldization culture or anything that they talked about, right? So again, they demonstrated something which is beyond the knowledge or the scope of the paper, right? And also, if you just present superficial knowledge and not something which is asked, deep knowledge, then again you will not get, they may give you 1 or 1.5 marks or even 0.5 marks, but not beyond that. Credit will be given for orderly, effective and exact expression. Okay, so it needs to be orderly. कोई किसी भी random मान रहे मत लिख देना आप, ठीक है? It need orderly का means that it needs to be introduction. There should be an introduction. There should be a body which requires or which is fulfilling the core demand of the question, and there should be some conclusion as well. So you can interpret it like this, that it needs to have certain order. So there would be 3 parts of a question. So आपको पहले first part को identify करना है, second को करना है, फिर third को करना है. So it needs to be in orderly manner. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप पहले third part को कर दिया आपने, फिर आपने second को किया. जैसे क्रिस्टोफर नोलन मूवी बनाते हैं, है ना, non-linear fashion में, तो वैसे नहीं करना है. It needs to be in orderly fashion. All right. Effective ho. Effective again is a very subjective term, but effective means here that you should be able to convey it in as less conflicting manner as possible. बहुत ही clearly आप उसको अपनी बातों को convey कर दो. And exact expression, if you can remember, combined with due economy of words in all subjects. So words उतना ही use करो जितना आपको permitted है. So in case something can be conveyed in 1 line, do not use 4 lines to convey that part just to fill the space. That's what they are saying. Okay. और ये सब तो है ही. In the questions, wherever required, SI units will be used. Candidates should only use international form of Indian numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 while answering questions. So ये भी important है. ठीक है. So let's talk about how to write good answers. And before that, what do you think, in your opinion, is a better approach? To write 1-2 questions every day, or to maybe write weekly test, 5-6 questions, or maybe give full length test and then analyze your performance? Or just what do you think? Like, there are two approaches. Okay, one approach is writing, like I call this a tortoise and rabbit approach. Tortoise approach is very consistent. You are writing 1 or 2 questions every day. Okay, you are analyzing it and you are doing it like this, right? And rabbit is that maybe monthly or weekly, you are giving maybe 10 questions or full length questions, or writing this. Okay, and maybe then you are taking rest and you are studying it. So what do you think is the best approach that you should adopt here? Okay, so which is better? The question is, which is better? आपकी मतलब rabbit approach is better? Rabbit? देखो, again, like in many questions which are pertinent to UPSC, you need an intersection of both. ठीक है? Intersection चाहिए होता है कहीं कहीं पे. देखो, the result will get from this approach only, rabbit approach. That यहाँ पे what you do, if you write only 1-2 questions, the problem is that you are not testing your time management skills, right? You are not checking whether you are able to, this stress level is also missing, that you don't know which one to prioritize, which one to skip, and it will be very content specific, right? So if you do know the content, then you can write. If you do not know, then it would be useless to write. So again, it has its utility, as you mentioned, that it is just for maintenance, okay? So for example, now that prelims is hardly, say, 5 months away, 3 months, sorry, 3 months away. So 3 months away, and if in case you are using like rabbit approach, I would say it is better to follow tortoise method now, okay? Just write 1 or 2 questions, or maybe 3 questions, just to be in the habit, okay? But once the results are out, then you can follow this approach, okay? So this is just for maintenance, and this will help you better understand the level, the difficulty level. This will also help you understand the time management part, right? All these things. So this is something that you should be following. Now, in case of how to start writing, I'm sure that all of you have already written answers, right? You have also got some feedback as well. So how many of you are from Visionized test series? Okay, only 1-2 students, right? And how many of you are from Visionized foundation course program? All right. See, first thing is that you need to build on your content. That is the most essential part, right? So content building is very essential. And for that, you need to know the syllabus very carefully, because unless you understand the syllabus, not just knowledge, but understanding. By understanding, I mean you need to deconstruct the syllabus, okay? And this will help you to fine-tune your preparation, because unless you know about the syllabus, everything under the sun, you'll see, or you'll understand, or you'll feel that everything under the sun is there for you to study. But it is not like that. You need to be very precise in your preparation, okay? Then, once you have understood, then you need to know what to read. You need to first go for the static sources. You need to first identify static sources, dynamic sources. I'm sure that all of you have clarity over this, कि क्या आप कहाँ से पढ़ना है, okay? In case you do not know where to study, just Google it, right? You will find a lot of resources, okay? And you can make that kind of notes that will help you prepare. Now, this is very important, that once you have read something, and again, I would suggest you for this, that study from 1 or 2 sources at max. One should be your NCERT. NCERT is a must, because NCERT helps you to think, right? And it is also written in a very lucid manner. So I would always strongly suggest you, in whatever stage of preparation you are, to always study NCERT, okay? So NCERT is a must. And you can build up with some other sources which you are comfortable with. Any other source. Maybe if you have taken any coaching, you can use your class notes, or you can take any standard book that you find good. But the point is, do not go for many sources, because content will only take you that far. There is no end to content. Just make sure that you have done your basic studies. That is more than sufficient. Same goes for dynamic sources. Do not go for every magazines that are published. Just stick with one monthly magazine and do your daily newspaper. That is more than sufficient. Now, once you have done it, it is not just important to read, it is also important to revise, because unless you revise, you will not be able to extract those points during when you write your questions. Okay, so it is important to revise as well. And here you need to make short notes, like we discussed during pressure groups. Okay, so you need to make your notes in that way. Take a look at the PYQs, what kind of questions they have asked. Try to identify the dimensions that have been coming in this paper, and then you can make your short notes. Then how to write. So once you have done all these stages, you can start writing with this itself. So writing can be part of revision as well. You can start with basic questions that are given in NCERT. NCERT has also very thought-provoking questions. If you look at India's Constitution at Work, especially, so they have given very good questions. In fact, from one of the questions, I think UPSC has also asked a couple of years back in terms of Constitution as a living document. So they have asked such questions, right? They have given such questions. So make sure that you practice basic questions. And then once you are comfortable that you are able to write good, like you are able to understand the demand of the question, you are able to write it, like you have got into the habit of writing. Then you can move to higher difficulty level questions. So here what you can do is, any standard books you can take a look at. They will also give you some questions, or you can write about the assignment questions that your coaching will provide you. So basically they will be subject specific, or they will be content heavy. Okay. So maybe you have studied about Constitution, and there would be a question on why did India adopt parliamentary system of government. So this is basically content rich question, right? So here, this can also be studied. Okay, so here your content level is very important. You need to have good understanding of the content, and make sure that you write these content like sectional test, appear for sectional tests. So there are sectional tests that you can appear, and within that sectional test, this will help you to revise your entire constitution, entire subject. For example, you have studied fundamental rights, or you have studied inflation. So make sure you go and test your understanding of inflation, not just by reading more notes, but going through some of the questions, not PYQs, but some basic questions, 5-6 questions that are there. Just make sure that you write. That will be very good. Then once you have done this, the best approach is this is something that if you have written prelims before, or if you think that your content is good, then you can directly go to this stage. Okay. You can write test series, and this is very essential. You can choose any test that you find comfortable with. You can write test series and incorporate the feedback. You'll get some feedback. You'll get micro feedback. Micro feedback means feedback on one particular question, okay? And macro means your overall writing style, okay? So micro will help you with your content. Maybe you have not given enough examples, maybe you have not given a chart, or you've not used presentation tools, so it will help you with the content part as well. Maybe you have not written enough dimensions, or the dimension that you have written is not that appropriate. So they will give you all such information, all right? Macro means something of a trend, right? Just like we study macroeconomy, macro feedback means it gives you an overview of your performance. So sometimes it may happen that you are taking too much time to come to the question. So you're writing too long introduction. Is it a pattern that is being witnessed in most of the question or some of the questions? So it means that it is a trend. So you should know, or you should know where you are making mistakes. So in case you are not able to complete the paper, which means that you are not able to practice time management carefully. So you need to work on your time management. In case the reasons that you are giving are not very convincing in nature. Okay, you are not able to understand the demand of the question. So it means that you need to work on your context, or there can be issues with regard to your content, that the content that you have written only depicts that you have a superficial understanding. You do not possess what is known as depth of understanding. So you need to work on your content then you need to go back to this part, okay? And again, trust me, it will not happen that you will work on it, like you can go on it sequentially. It will happen test by test. So in some paper, you will get, you'll have good content, you'll understand very well, but in some topics, you may need to prepare some content additionally. So this process can go hand in hand, right? So you can write test and you can also build upon your concepts, all right? This again is very essential, practicing PYQs. So initial level pay up, you can just take a look at the PYQs to identify the dimensions, to understand what should be written as part of your notes. But towards the later half, or once you have completed your preparation, then what you can do is you can actually sit and write the PYQs in exam-like condition, okay? So make sure that you write your PYQs as well, also get their feedback. Like what kind of mistakes are you committing, right? Are you able to understand the demand of the question or not? Why this is important is because UPSC repeats themes. It may not repeat the question, but it will repeat themes, okay? And once you understand the pattern, once you understand how to decode these themes, it will be very easy for you to attempt any questions that are asked from a similar theme. So understand what kind of theme are they asking and try to anticipate or predict what kind of questions can be asked based on the development of recent past. Then this is very essential, analyze topper's copy. Now, how do you analyze topper's copy? What are the steps? What else? So how many of you have seen actually topper's copies? You have seen? You have not seen? See, whenever you take a look at topper's copy, you should not go at it in a passive manner. It should be very active oriented. Like it should be a very planned measure that you should take. Okay, so let me show you, or let me tell you what should be done. First, do not randomly take a look at any topper's copy. Why? Because it may be bad for your confidence, right? Especially if you have not prepared it, right? So first, prepare a topic. Okay, maybe let's just for the sake of clarity or for simplification, let's say that you have studied fundamental rights, okay? Or any topic of GS2, you have studied something. Now, once you have completed this, once you have taken a look at PYQs, you have made your notes, you have done all these basic things, then you should go and take a look at the topper's answer copies. But before you take a look at the copies, first take a look at the questions. Okay, what the question is, what kind of question is the topper analyzing? So for example, we talked about the pressure groups question, right? So first, before looking into the answer, you should take a look at the question, right? So take a look at the question. Do not just look at the question, attempt the question. If you have time, attempt the entire questions. If you do not have time, so for some reason, if you do not have time, you have to prepare for something else, you can write the structure of the answer. Okay, so full attempt or partial attempt. So in structure, just think or just write what you will write in introduction, what you will write, or how many parts are there in the question, how will you break down all these parts, and how would you conclude the question? Okay, what kind of data will you use? How will you use presentation tools? So for example, if it involves drawing of a map, where will that map be placed? What kind of map will you draw? Right? So all of them you should first figure it out. Then you take a look at the topper's answer. So first see whether the basic thing that you have understood from the question is also something that the topper has understood. Okay? So you should know that what is basically being inferred by you from the question is also the same thing which the topper is telling through his answer. Okay? So now you should compare, understand what kind of structure the topper has used. Right? So in introduction, what kind of approach the topper has used? Has the topper used any data, any definition, or in terms of any report, something like that, right? And could you also think along that line, or did you write something different? See, your answer need not be bad, right? You can write even better answer than the topper, because he would have written that answer under a stress condition, right? But maybe at the comfort of your home, you could think of a better answer, right? So think about that and write something, compare it, see what you can learn from it. Like, see what kind of data the topper is using, see the kind of examples he's using, see the kind of maps or visual tools that the topper is using. And if in case you like something, make sure you add it in your notes. Do not just look at it and drop it, because trust me, you will not be able to use that in exam. The idea is that whatever you like in the topper's answer, you need to steal it, right? And in order to steal it, you need to write it somewhere in your notebook. Okay? So you need to steal from the topper, you need to learn from the topper, and this is basically the idea of reverse engineering. Okay? Okay? So this is how you basically learn maximum from the topper's copy. Okay? And this would especially work very well when it comes to ethics case study. Okay? So ethics case study I would strongly urge you to go and check how the toppers have used the space for writing case studies. Okay? Because what happens is, different people have different approaches as far as case study is concerned, right? So you can understand how they have, whether they have given a stakeholder analysis or not, what kind of flowchart they have drawn, okay? So you can use that and make sure you write it somewhere, or you take a screenshot with you and save it somewhere, right? Because it is important for you to organize your points very well. Okay, so again I re-emphasize this point that your notes should be concise and it needs to be structured, otherwise you will not be able to use them properly. ठीक है, तो स्ट्रक्चर करके बनाना है. Right, so this is how you analyze topper's copy. Then again, this is something that you know already, but I'll explain it again. What exactly are the components of a good answer? Context, content, conclusion, 3C, यहाँ पे है introduction, structure and presentation, language, ये सब है, ठीक है? So basically what should be the demand of what are the components of a good answer? What makes an answer good answer? First of all, the first thing is that it meets the demand of the question. This is the most essential part. You are only answering you're answering the question which is asked. So answer So write what is asked and not what you know. That is very essential, because in times of pressure, what happens is we only read the question very partially. Okay, बहुत ही partially देखते हैं, एक keyword दिख गया, and we start writing on that only, without knowing that the question may be entirely about something different. So this is very important. Read the questions at least twice. At least twice. do not think that by not reading the question properly, you are saving on time, because ultimately this will definitely have a very bad impact on your overall marks. So make sure you read the question twice. Okay, that is non-negotiable. Okay, ये आपको करना है. This will help you understand what is the demand of the question. Okay. Now understand first. Once you have understood what exactly is the question, you need to identify what are the subparts. Okay, so some questions will give you very clearly what are the demand, what are the subparts. Okay, so you need to identify that is there any just one question, or the question has certain parts as well, like A, B. This question has certain parts as well. So you need to know that, okay, this question has 3 parts. Okay, so you need to first keep that in your mind and then proceed. And there may be a time when the examiner has not asked for a specific classification of questions, so they have just given one question. But you need to think, shall I just write this, or shall I break it down into further components to make it more comprehensive, right? So here you need to do is, when the question is not already broken into various parts, you need to manually do this. You need to first break it down into 1 or 3 components. Okay. Then once you have identified this, you need to think about what kind of introduction and what kind of conclusion I can give. Again, always start with the end. Okay, this is the basic philosophy of reverse engineering. You need to start with the end. You need to think what kind of introduction I'm going to write and what kind of conclusion I'm going to write. All right. Why this is important? Because you don't want to repeat yourself in introduction and conclusion. So if you have given definition of something in the introduction, obviously you cannot define that again in the conclusion. Or you can, if you are writing something in the introduction which could be used in the body, then that will prevent you from using that point as part of your introduction or as the part of body. So you need to first understand what exactly will be the type of your introduction and what will be the type of your conclusion. So we'll discuss it separately in the next class, what other types of introduction you can use and what are the different types of conclusion that can be done. Then include multiple dimensions in the body. Do not just stick with that dimensions of the same subject. Okay, try to mix and match. For example, questions on polity need not necessarily be limited to polity. You can connect it with society. It can be connected to geography. It can be connected to ethics. Okay. So make sure that you are including multiple dimensions. One approach is called pestle approach. What is pestle approach? Any idea? So basically you are breaking down political, economic, social, technological, right? Environmental, legal, right? So again, there can be multiple dimensions that you can use. So in case you are not able to identify what are the dimensions, you can think along this line, right? But it needs to be organic in nature, all right? It needs to, also you need to use simple language. The things that you can explain, so simple language means couple of things. One is that write short sentences. Why short sentences? Because it is easier to understand. Second, it is easier to make less mistakes here. So you will make less grammatical mistakes here, because when you write very complex sentences, the examiner may have to read the sentence again to understand what you have said. And many a times, the examiner will not bother to read what you have said, okay? So make sure that you write simple sentences to begin with, right? And this is something that you can learn from NCERT. NCERT writes sentences in a very brilliant way, and it will conveys very complex ideas using very simple sentences, all right? Provide example, okay? Because what happens is, when we write something, it comes across as very abstract in nature, right? Or abstract things do not make sense to a lot of people, right? You need to provide examples. So once you have given example, it makes much sense, and it provides some practical manifestation of things that you're talking about, okay? So provide example, and this example you can get from current affairs. So whenever you come across any current affairs magazine, for example, we are talking about pressure groups, right? Pressure groups. So any recent development with regard to environmental pressure groups will be part of your example, right? So here you can pick up some examples and make sure that you write those examples in your notes that you are preparing, okay? Because otherwise you will not be able to collect it. But again, do not overdo it. 3-4 examples is more than sufficient, all right? It also needs to present, you need to provide effective presentation tools, because see, again, the examiner will be bombarded with content. So you need to provide some sort of visual relief for him, and this can be done by providing good visual tools. For example, by providing data, charts, maps, diagrams, right, table. Then we have a lot of tools are there. We'll discuss it in a separate class. What are the tools that you can use? Then uses subject-specific terms. Subject-specific terms, for example, instead of using rainfall, you can use precipitation, right? That is one example. So you use specific example. Or for example, when you are talking about any polity questions, then maybe you can write about some constitutional judgments. You can talk about some relevant articles. That is essential, right? So you can do all these things. Okay, so this is something that is part of this classroom activity. You are given 15 minutes of time to write. Okay, so write this and then we'll discuss in 15 minutes. Okay. Completed? Okay. So what did you write here? Or what would be the structure of the question? बस कुछ है ही नहीं इसमें. What is है ना, अगर ऐसा है तो see there are two things that I mentioned earlier. There would be questions where you will find that the structure is already written in the question. So you will understand what are the parts, and then you will attempt those parts and you are good to go. But in questions like this, you have to break the questions apart through your own understanding. All right. So what would be the parts that you will use here? क्या लिखोगे? Structure. What would be the structure? नहीं, पहले बताओ what will be your, let's proceed very step by step manner. Okay, so what will be the introduction? Huh? Definition of cloudburst, would that be your introduction, everyone? Then what? घटना और कारण, ठीक है, और कुछ? हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. Mechanism, very good. How and why? And why? और कुछ? Pro, very good. Regions, कहाँ कहाँ पे होता है? Very good. Because it's a geography question. Geography question में subject specificity होनी चाहिए, which is the location. You can also talk about, you can make the maps, diagram भी बना सकते हो, जो areas हैं, you can also depict it in the diagram, right? What else? Case studies, very good, very good, very good. और कुछ? हाँ. NDMRA की guidelines, very nice. क्या? Sponsity, yes, yes, yes. So again, you can talk about certain things which India can learn from certain countries that they are using to mitigate the adverse effect of cloudburst. Yeah, it's a good approach, right? So is there anyone who does not understand the meaning of cloudburst? बस बता दो कोई भी, just for the sake of it, like किसी को पता नहीं है कि होता क्या है cloudburst? See, because again, even if you do not know what cloudburst is, right? I'm sure that all of you are aware of what rainfall is, right? So rainfall is the thing that you should know. That is the general thing that you should know, right? Rainfall, right? All of you are aware of rainfall or precipitation, and cloudburst is nothing but an intense form of rainfall only, right? So you have to talk about the intense form of the rainfall. And you don't have to just talk about why it is an intense form. You also have to talk about or give reasons or give data. Right? As you have mentioned that you have to talk about the precipitation, that it should, like, it's basically a high intensity of rainfall, basically कितना 10 centimeter होता है ना, 10 centimeter, 10 to 15 per hour. As per IMD, it's 10 centimeter, right? And then it shall also be in a very small or a very regional location, right? हाँ. So again, that is the precise definition of cloudburst. But my question is, would you start with the definition or would you do something else? Because anyway, you have to define it, but it would be better, huh? Exactly. Recent events which have happened, I think recently in Himachal Pradesh, more than 50 people died because of cloudburst, because of landslides that arose because of cloudburst, right? So it would be a better approach to start with that, because you are providing a context. Okay, so always think, how would you make, like, this is a thing that is very important, how would you make a static question dynamic and dynamic question static? Right? Always think like this. So this is purely a static question. On the face of it, it is purely a static question. So you need to provide some context through current affairs that will make it more current oriented. Okay, so you provide the context that something of this has happened that makes the concept very essential to understand for us. So that has not set the table. The examiner will be now excited that you have already mentioned that yes, this has caused havoc on people. So it means that it is important for us to understand the meaning of it, and we need to understand the mechanism of it, right? So it's a very good approach. So you can talk about the current affairs, anything that you are aware of, you can mention that. Then obviously you talk about what is cloudburst, and you talk about the phenomena of cloudburst. You explain the phenomena, explain basic mean, you talk about how and why, okay? Yes, we can also talk about impact, okay? So let's see what would be the brainstorming will look like. So I've chosen a very simple question deliberately so that you'll understand the process, right? So what are the first thing that you should ask, any question that is given to you, understand what is the context. Now, what is the meaning of context? Yes. So see, what prompted the examiner to ask this question? Inciting incident kya hai, right? What is something that happened that made UPSC to ask question? For example, if UPSC asks question on India-US relations, so there are a lot of context to it. Most important context is because of election of or Donald Trump 2.0, right? Election of Donald Trump again, that is the most essential context, because that is going to change the way India and US are going to interacting with each other, right? So that is the context. So context is essentially, you can understand, is form of news, something which has made this news or this issue more essential, okay? So basically, this is the essence or the background that you need to know, right? And again, this will come through current affairs. So for example, if I'm asking you question about fundamental rights, Article 21, so maybe because some right has been made as right to life and personal liberty under Article 21, or judiciary has given some judgment which has made certain right as part of Article 21, inclusive of that, right? Or in case if I'm asking you a question on Article 30, then what is the context behind that? AMU case would be that. So you need to see, again, you have to understand, identify the context through current affairs. If I'm asking you the relation between DPSP and fundamental right, it is because there have been a recent judgment about interpretation of Article 31C, right, which gives priority of certain DPSP over certain fundamental rights, right? तो ये context आपको पता होना चाहिए, ये background news आपको पता होना चाहिए, right? And this makes for a very good introduction. अगर आप introduction में use नहीं भी कर रहे हो, you can use that in your body, all right? Then how many subparts are there? इसमें तो कुछ clearly लिखा नहीं था. So how would you identify the subparts? Always start with what. है ना, what तो पहले करना ही आपको, ये एक पार्ट होगा, देन उसके बाद हाउ एंड वाई आप करोगे ही. तो ये आपको एक पार्ट होगा आपका what पे, एक पार्ट होगा हाउ पे, एक होगा वाई पे. वाई इंपॉर्टेंट, right? Why this is important, how it is created, that is the mechanism, right? Why important? Because it impacts, it leads to landslides, it also leads to destruction of properties, right? So it has not just a technological or social geographical bearing, it also has human bearing, right? So it has human impact. So we need to understand all these things, right? Then you should think about what can be a good way to introduce the answer, right? So you can either, what you can do is you can directly start writing the introduction, जो भी आपको समझ में आपने इतना शुरू कर दिया, but better approach is to plan it. पहले plan कर लीजिए कि क्या आप लिखोगे, है ना? तो start with, like there are various ways to write introduction. It can be based on current affairs, report, है ना? या maybe कुछ भी और other ways, definition based हो सकता है. In this case, definition is implicitly asked. So better approach is to use current affairs. तो यहाँ पे आपको ये smartness होनी चाहिए कि by आप repeat क्यों करोगे अपने आप को. Then what should be written in the main body? Again, main body is basically यही how and why का. इसमें you can talk about various dimensions कि how में do we need method dimensions? Do I need more? यहाँ पे why में क्या क्या point लिख सकते हैं, और can I make any presentation tools? So again, this is a specific thing. जैसे एक geography का question है. So if you want to show any region, then always use map of India. Okay, India map तो आप लोग practice कर ही लो, because that will be very useful when it comes to geography questions or international relations questions or even internal security. Again, कोई भी location show करना है, instead of writing the location, it is a good idea to depict that in India's map. Again, it need not be perfect. अगर आप toppers की copy देखोगे, you will see what kind of maps are they drawing. It is not perfect in any way, but make sure that you know how to draw a map of India in a very short span of time. ठीक है? Then, are there any current events? So again, this context related only, current event related to cloudburst. So you can use that either in the introduction, or maybe you can use that in the body. Then you can also think about how to conclude the answer. Is there any best practices that you can use? Is there an SDG that you can use? So there are various ways of concluding any answer. So you can think about all those parameters, all right? So ये सारी चीज़ें आपकी brainstorming होंगी, आपको सोचना पड़ेगा. So in case you do not know how to write or answer, so again ये सब आपको सोचना पड़ेगा. अगर ये बहुत ही simple के लिए मैंने दिया है, maybe for a very difficult question also you can think along these similar lines. ठीक है? Then अब देखो ये content वाली बात है. So if you look at NCERT, what NCERT has written is heavy rainfall at one place is called cloudburst. इतना ही लिखा हुआ है NCERT में. तो अगर आप ये भी लिखोगे तो you will get some marks. Okay, heavy rainfall at one place is called cloudburst. और यहाँ पे mechanism भी दे रखा है. It happens when clouds with a lot of moisture collect at one place and the water droplets mix with each other. Due to their heavy weight, the density of cloud increases and it starts raining heavily. Okay, so ये NCERT में दे रखा है. ये reports भी दे रखे हैं कि यहाँ पे ये हुआ था, ये हुआ, तो impact भी दे रखा है. हिंदू में भी cover है यहाँ पे देखो, cloudburst in Himachal Pradesh, death toll mounts to 6, 47 people still missing. So all of them, more than 50 people died actually here. So यहाँ पे देखो कि हिंदू आपको जो इंडियन जो NCERT से आपको एक बेसिक आइडिया लग जाएगा, राइट? और दिस इज फ्रॉम द वेबसाइट ऑफ IMD. दे हैव देयर इज अ FAQ सेक्शन, फ्रीक्वेंटली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चंस का एक सेक्शन बना रखा है. सो इन केस यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर ज्योग्राफी, लाइक अगर आप ज्योग्राफी स्टार्ट कर रहे हो प्रिपेयर करना, so you can take a look at these FAQ documents. So they have talked about a lot of questions or a lot of topics which are there in our syllabus. For example, they have given what is cloudburst. They have written, if 10 centimeter rainfall is received at a station in 1 hour, the rain event is termed as cloudburst. So again, this would be a more precise way of writing your answer. Okay. So generic तो देखो सबको पता ही होगा, but in case you want to make it more precise, and writing data will give you additional marks because you are being more precise. You are writing exact answer. UPSC notification में लिखा था ना कि your answers need to be exact, right? तो यहाँ पे exact लिखोगे तो you will get more marks. Now the problem is it is very difficult to predict the cloudburst due to its very small scale in space and time to monitor or nowcast, which is, अब देखो यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है nowcast का मतलब क्या होता है ब्रैकेट में, forecasting a few hours lead time. The cloudburst we need to have a dense radar network. So अब question UPSC can also ask why it is difficult to forecast or nowcast cloudburst event. तो यहाँ पे आप ये भी लिख सकते हो, ठीक है? or one needs to have a very high resolution weather forecasting model. So ये technical reasons बता रहे हैं, technicals. To resolve the scale of cloudburst do occur at plains. So अगर question आएगा prelims में कि cloudburst only happen at the hilly regions, so that will be a wrong statement because IMD itself has mentioned that it occur at plains also. ठीक है, so it can happen at plains also. However, mountainous regions are more prone to cloudburst due to orography. Also, recently Delhi में अब देखोगे अगर last year बहुत ज़्यादा rainfall हुई थी. So IMD said that the Delhi downpour is not due to a cloudburst but was close to one. So a lot of people said that basically Delhi is facing what is known as a cloudburst event, but IMD clarified it that it is not a cloudburst event, but it is very close to one. So again, this could also be part of your introduction. Then if you can, Hindu from time to time comes up with explained section, so you can go and watch this phenomena to understand it better. In body, you can talk about how are cloudbursts formed. They are formed when saturated clouds are unable to produce rain because of the upward movement of very warm current of air. All these things are mentioned here, right? So they become very heavy for the cloud to hold on to, and they downpour together in a quick flash. Right, so again, body में mechanism can be mentioned, and presentation में you can provide some schematic arrangement. ऐसा आप बना सकते हो कुछ diagram जैसा. Step 1 बता सकते हो यहाँ पे moist air है, फिर यहाँ से it rising cools, फिर violent upwards, lack of upward air, finally whole of stored water falls at one time, steep slope causes flash floods. तो ऐसा आप कुछ बना सकते हो. It need not be perfectly written in this manner, but आप कुछ form में बना सकते हो ऐसा, apart from drawing the diagram of map of India. कंक्लूजन में आप ये सब बता सकते हो, क्लाउड बर्स्ट ये वाला प्लान, राइट, ये सब कुछ जहाँ पे कहीं पे हो रहा है, तो यू कैन टॉक अबाउट दिस. लाइक दिस इज कोपेनहेगन मॉडल वेयर म्युनिसिपल डिपार्टमेंट हैज़ ऑर्गेनाइज्ड अ क्लाउड बर्स्ट मास्टर प्लान. It aims to decouple 30 to 40% of the excess storm water from the combined sewer system. The plan incorporates concretization as well as creation of canals and the greening of Copenhagen. Again, पूरा नहीं लिखना है, बस पता होना चाहिए कि हाँ कोपेनहेगन में कुछ एक मास्टर प्लान है which we can learn from. That's it. That's all you need to know. All right. So ये हो गया towards conclusion. Again, there's an activity of identify key themes and keywords, but I think you all already know this part, so we'll skip it. This questions we have already discussed. This also we have discussed. Let's attempt this question. ठीक है, ये ट्राई करो, बस स्ट्रक्चर बनाने की कोशिश करो. डन, बस बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है. So what are the parts of the question? How many parts are there? हाँ बताओ कौन कौन से. ठीक है. Challenges, steps taken, फिर हाँ ठीक है. Challenges और फिर ठीक है. तो क्वेश्चन इज प्रीटी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, राइट. इसमें कुछ बहुत ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. तो अगर सो ऑल ऑफ यू आर अवेयर ऑफ व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज केयर इकोनॉमी. डू यू नो व्हाट केयर इकोनॉमी इज? क्या होता है बताओ, एक एक करके कोई. हाँ आप बताओ, आप हाँ आप ही बता दो. कोई और बताना. अनपेड वर्क. और आप बताओ. Yes. Yes. Right. Good. So tell me from which part of syllabus it has, this question is taken from? It is part of which paper first of all? Paper 3? Are you sure? देखो ये this basically is a paper question of social justice. ठीक है. So again, but थोड़ा बहुत economy का भी इसमें interaction integration है. So again, the thing is, UPSC is also asking in such a way that it is using concept from one paper and asking in the other paper. All right. For example, we discussed about cryptocurrency and its impact on Indian society. Similarly, it is a question of economy, like what is care economy. So this part is essentially a question of economics, what is care economy. But here, the burden basically falls on various social agents. That is why it is part of Indian society or social justice, right? So here, you will need to know the challenges associated with it and the steps taken to address them in India, right? So in way forward, you can talk about what more can be done to address these steps or what some recent things have been taken place, right? So if you look at the topper's answer, again, first, the idea is that you write this question on your own and then take a look at what the topper has written. So let me show you the answer copy of Ishita Kishore, All India Rank 1 of 2022. What she has written is, she has first explained or defined care economy. Care economy is the background work within a household for provision of everyday services. So that is first point. And the most important part is women constitute 75% of the care work burden. That is by McKinsey report. Okay. So now she has not only just she's explained it, she also has given a very important data that women constitute more than 3/4 of the people who are involved in care economy. Right. Now now she has also given a quote: the economies are run on the backs of women. Okay. You may, if you can write quote or if you can skip it, that is also will not have too much impact. Now the challenges. Now she has given two subheadings here in box: challenges and steps taken, right? So here we can be assured that there are two parts that she has used, okay? Now challenges perpetuates low female inclusion in public sphere. So abysmal labor force participation rate at 22%. So again, you can use some concept from economics, okay, in terms of women participation. Now you know that this question is essentially about women's participation in economics or in labor force. So you can talk about all these issues, right? Then patriarchal discrimination against girl child heightened by ASER report in the COVID survey, lack of status due to men, non-inclusion in GDP, right? So they are not included in GDP as such. Then ignored in policy making. Right, so you can also write all further points as well. You can talk about challenges in terms of infrastructure challenges, in terms of why most of the times these workers are not provided with social security. Right, you can talk about all these technical aspects as well, which is related to any issues with regard to any informal job. Right, so आपको कोई भी informal sector के जो भी issues होंगे, MSME sector के होंगे, more or less you can write it here as well. Right. In addition to that, you can talk about some issues that are faced by women. For example, problem of sexual harassment, right? Domestic abuse can be one, right? You can talk about that. So, 3-4 points ऐसे आपने लिख लिया है, then you can straight away move to this part. Elevation of status of women as head of family in government schemes. So again, this is a very generic point, but still it can be considered as a relevant point. Enhance awareness for girl child to go to school and leave care work. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Increase in marriageable age of women to 21. Health schemes can empower them. Right, so again, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. See, these are very generic points. All I'm saying is these are generic points, okay? But you can still write some very specific points as well. So again, what she has written here is the steps which are required for emancipation of women in general. हाँ हाँ हाँ, तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आप यहाँ पे इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क वाला बोल सकते हो, है ना? आर्टिकल कौन सा आर्टिकल है? 39 क्लॉज डी लिख सकते हो, राइट, फॉर मेन एंड वुमेन. और सी दे कैन बी लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स दैट यू कैन राइट हियर. Okay, what she has done is that she has given some policies or schemes which are very generic in nature. So again, the point is that even if you do not know the content, right, it does not mean that you do not write it. You write something generic. You can link it with the syllabus, and if you can write just ye point, this is relevant, right? But again, यहाँ पे ये again, this is indirectly hitting the point. Right, but you have to directly hit the point as well. 2-3 पॉइंट आपको डायरेक्टली देखने पड़ेंगे, उसके बाद आप चाहो तो 2-3 जेनरिक भी डाल सकते हो, राइट? सो अगेन दिस विल कम ओनली थ्रू आंसर राइटिंग. लास्ट में इसमें देखें क्या लिखा है, इंडियन एफर्ट्स हैव बीन सिग्निफिकेंट बट स्टिल नीड टू गो अ लॉन्ग वे. देखो अगेन बहुत ही जेनरिक सा है ना, कुछ वे टू जेंडर इक्वल सोर्स. अगर इसमें 5 ट्रिलियन इकॉनमी एक स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट लिखा हुआ है कि मे बी वी कैन इंक्लूड दैट. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई थिंक देयर वाज अ रिपोर्ट विच सेड दैट इफ वी इंक्लूड women as part of, or those who are part of care economy in the formal economy, then the economy contribution can increase significantly, right? So maybe you can use that part, you can use certain new provisions which have been taken place, right? Or you can say that we should ensure that Vishakha guidelines are implemented in letter and spirit, something along that line, right? Which are discouraging women to participate meaningfully in workplaces, right? So again, the point is that content can be generic as well. You may write even better content than the topper, right? But the point is that you need to write it for 20 questions straight, है ना? 20 क्वेश्चन में लिखना होगा तब. But it's good that you are able to write it, ठीक है? फिर एक ये क्वेश्चन देखो. The question is, discuss why Bay of Bengal is more prone to cyclones than the Arabian Sea. Also explain the reasons for decrease in frequency of cyclones during the southwest monsoon season. तो ये बहुत ही technical question है. Unless you know the exact reason, unless you have studied this in your geography, you will not be in a position to write it unless you apply yourself. You can apply your mind and you can get the correct answer as well. Okay? So देखो यहाँ पे basically, I'll show you what the topper has done. It is taken from the copy of Medha Anand, All India Rank 13 of 2023. She has given this introduction. Bay of Bengal sees twice more cyclones than Arabian Sea due to its favorable conditions of cyclogenesis. बहुत ही छोटा सा इसमें introduction है. Due to its favorable, क्या favorable है? She has not mentioned it. That is fine because it will be here in the body, right? So यहाँ पे आप maybe she could have underlined the twice part because it shows that it is giving a data showing that this is like this, right? Reasons for more cyclones you can talk about. ये पहले आप चाहो तो ये बना सकते हो एक map जैसा. Again, you need not make the entire map, just need to make this a small part of the map to convey your points, right? यहाँ पे आप figure लिख दो, इसको box में बना दो और यहाँ पे कुछ example दे दो. और then you can talk about all these reasons क्यों है यहाँ पे. जो भी conditions होती हैं cyclones को बनाने में that are more prevalent in case of Bay of Bengal. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे उन्होंने ये लिख दिया है. ठीक है. Then reasons for decrease in tropical cyclones. Again ये वाला points भी वही है mostly इसमें. जो conditions होती हैं suitable वो यहाँ पे इस types of monsoons के साथ ज़्यादा relevant है. Okay, so again you can link it with your static part as well. थोड़ा सा इसमें ज़्यादा advanced level पे है but still it's not very difficult to attempt. Okay. So यहाँ पे the point that I wanted to show you is that she has again structured the answer in such a way that all the parts are addressed. She has used presentation tools very effectively and she has underlined most of the keywords. And जहाँ भी scope था diagram लाने का, she has used it. Okay. और कुछ और दिखाता हूँ आपको. Components of answer in UPSC civil, जैसे कि economics में हो गया. Recognizing the potential of exports in generating employment, a number of steps need to be taken to address India's weakening export competitiveness. Now, export का problem India में perennial है, अभी भी problem है ना? तो problem है तो we need to know why this problem is there. We need to know the data कि what extent तक हमारा export का problem है. Then what can be done? What is the potential? Right? What is the potential here? And what can be done to address export competitiveness? What are the challenges? What are the ways? तो यहाँ पे आप ये सब लिख सकते हो. Again, economy question में you can borrow heavily from the ideas given in economic survey and budget, right? So they will give you with excellent source of data, some facts, some case studies which you can use here. ठीक है? So this is all about today's session. ये आप you can take it as assignment questions, these two assignment questions. Analyze the relationship between poverty and education in India, okay? And how can artificial intelligence be considered as both a potential threat and valuable tool in addressing biological warfare? Okay, take these two questions, attempt it, we can discuss it tomorrow. ठीक है? और we will be conducting 5 classes on this answer writing. This was just a preview. In the first class, which is tomorrow, we'll talk about context. What exactly, how do we understand the context, what we can do to understand the various nuances, what are various directive words such as explain, critically analyze, so what exactly is their meaning and how should we modify our answers as per the directive words. And then we'll be taking up some of the toppers copies and see how they have utilized these structure. Then in the second master class, we'll talk about the structuring of answer. Here we will talk about introduction and body specifically. We'll talk about why introduction is required, what are the various types of introduction, and what is, like in what situation you do not need to write introduction. And also body, what kind of, how can you write simple, lucid and concise language. Third class, we'll talk about structure part, subject-specific conclusion. Here you'll talk about subject-specific aspects. For example, what can be done in economy, what can be done in polity, what can be done in ethics. So there will be different components that we'll touch upon. And finally, in the fourth class, we'll talk about the presentation aspects. So this will not discuss too much on the content, but the presentation tools. And trust me, there are various presentation tools that you can use. And also we'll talk about this part again, how do you make your answer from generic to specific. So in today's class, we have also touched upon this, but we'll discuss this in more detail in the fourth class. And lastly, in the final class, we'll talk about the complete revision part, and there will be live tests. So there will be 5-10 questions that you have to write, and then there will be a discussion as well, right? So this will be the broad structure of the master class. I want you to leave with this particular quote, okay? So how many of you know this person? Any idea who this person is? He's Stephen King, writer of various horror movies, right? He writes books which are mostly horror. So he talks about that the most difficult thing or the most horror thing for human bodies or human beings are to start something, because here you feel most uncomfortable. So once you start something, then your fear starts to dissipate, right? So that's it for today's class. Do you have any questions? Huh. Right, so in case it depends on the topic to topic, but the first that the consideration that you should have when you make a note is that it should only contain keywords. Okay, you should not write lengthy sentences in your notes first. Second is, do not write things which you already know. ठीक है? हाँ, नहीं, मतलब देखो ऐसे करना कि जो कि आप यूज़ कर सको. कीवर्ड्स का मतलब ये है कि जैसे मान लो कि आप लिख रहे हो डेफिनेशन, तो आप लिख दोगे 2-3 वर्ड्स लिख दोगे वहाँ पे, इनफॉर्मल लिख दोगे, इम्पैक्ट्स पॉलिसी मेकिंग, राइट, इनडायरेक्ट, नॉट पार्ट ऑफ पॉलिटिकल बॉडी, ऐसे कुछ लिख दो. तो दैट अगर आप इतना भी देख लोगे तो इट विल हेल्प यू टू रिकॉल दैट ड्यूरिंग एग्जामिनेशन. So make sure you write keywords and things which you already know, no need to write it. For example, you don't need to make or prepare notes on fundamental rights, है ना, कि वहाँ पे already notes पे दे रखा है. But things which require you to research from various sources, there it is important to have things in a consolidated place. वहाँ पे आप बना सकते हो और उसमें always make sure that आप थोड़ा एक ही पेज में effectively utilize your space, right? Or if possible, use digital notes. In case you are comfortable, because that will help you with to edit it, okay, and also it will help you to carry it wherever you go, because जो printed जो notes आप बनाओगे A4 sheet में, उसमें problem ये है कि whenever you go somewhere else, you will not be able to take it with you, और उसके बाद आप revise भी नहीं कर पाओगे. इसमें है कि it will help you with editing part, and it will be very useful, especially when it comes to revision from anywhere, wherever you are. ठीक है, तो एक ये है. और कुछ? ठीक है, so start writing from today. These start from practice. Like देखो, the session is essentially going to be very interactive, and you can ask what specific problems you have with regard to answer writing. Okay, so make sure you attempt these two questions, and we'll start discussing them, and then we'll have move to the next agenda, right? ठीक है, so thank you all for joining. All the best.